a lot of web pages, and it seems nobody knows where Planet X is. I found this site at doomguide.com/book/dsg_16_14.php. I will include the link in the video description so you can go there. It has some valuable information which I think everybody should have, because there are a lot of people out there who say that Planet X is behind the sun, and this is utter nonsense. Anyone who knows anything about our solar system understands that all the planets are in a ring, or it's called an ecliptic plane. Pluto does not fit in, but Pluto is no longer a planet. You may recall that I told you why he was kicked out. He was puny, he wouldn't go to the gym, and then they caught him drinking light beer, and they threw his ass out. So forget about Pluto. I have read that the gravitational attraction of Planet X will hurl Pluto out into the Kuiper Belt, and perhaps even as far as the Oort cloud. So don't worry about Pluto. All the rest of the planets are in this ecliptic plane. Here's a drawing. The sun is yellow, the earth is that green, blue, and brown ball. The path of Planet X is marked in blue. We have been told that Planet X will come in below the ecliptic plane, will pass the sun, and then leave after passing through the ecliptic plane. Closer to Earth on this pass than any other pass recently. The path is parabolic. What does that mean? If you have a ball, a softball, a baseball, or a basketball, and you're going to throw it to your friend, the path is parabolic because the ball is being acted upon by the Earth. A parabola is the path of a moving ball in a gravitational field. What does that mean? If you throw the ball up into the air, the minute it leaves your hand, it is traveling at the fastest velocity. And every second that goes by, that ball loses 9.8 meters per second of its speed. So if you hurled it into the air at 4 times that speed, in exactly 4 seconds, the ball would stop rising and begin to fall because gravity is still acting on it. Planet X is the same way. The Earth is replaced by the sun, and now Planet X is just a ball with a whole lot of debris, which comes in and speeds up all the time it's coming in. It whips around the sun, and then it goes back out to where it came from, likely the Kuiper Belt, but possibly the Oort cloud. It's a 3,600-year cycle, and since I'm reading a page that was provided by Zeta Talk, they have a number, 3,657. That number is very strange because there are 365 days in a year and 7 days in a week. That number is 3657. They said that's the average time it takes to go out and come back in. One complete cycle, 3,657 years, and it does vary. Why does it vary? Because it encounters things on the way, like Earth. And Earth will pull on it, and it will pull on Earth, and this slows it down. But it has enough velocity when it goes back out to go out for 1,800 years. Imagine you threw a ball so hard that it took 1,800 years for it to reach the point at which it stops and begins to fall back. That's Planet X. And it's because the sun has an enormous mass and Planet X has a mass. And the power of the sun's influence on it works on it all the way out. It stops it from going out and it brings it back in because Planet X has lost its velocity. And so it comes back in, streaming faster and faster with every second that passes until one day it's here, it whips around the sun, passes through the ecliptic plane of the planets, and goes back out. Now look at this diagram. If planet X is coming in, at which point is it behind the sun? My answer, it is never behind the sun. Never. Never. In order to be behind the sun, it would have to be on the same plane as the Earth and the sun. And you can see by this picture that only takes place once. And when it's there at the ecliptic plane located between the sun and the Earth, there's going to be a shadow on the Earth. We're going to have a passing of planet X. Some people might ask, is this the 3 days of darkness? No. No, the 3 days of darkness is also the 3 days of continuous light, because planet X locks onto the Atlantic Rift. It's the part of the Earth that is very metallic. And when it locks onto it, there are only two things that can happen. The Earth stops rotating, or planet X just rips out that large piece of iron and takes it with it. On planet Mars, you have a 4,000-mile gash. And everybody has their theory about what it is. The scientists are saying water washed this out, and I say baloney. Planet X came close to Mars. There was a lot of iron in that particular part of Mars, and Planet X now owns it. That's what happened. That's my opinion. You form your own opinion. 65 years ago, actually it was longer, in 1947, I think it was June, a vehicle crashed. All the aliens died except one. She had a high-fidelity body. What does that mean? She could rock your socks off all night. She was a fast machine. She kept her motor clean. She was the best damn woman that I ever seen. She had sightless eyes, telling me no lies, knocking me out with those American thighs, taking more than her share, had me fighting for air. She told me to come, but I was already there. The walls were shaking, the earth was quaking. She had a high-fidelity body. Now, in 1947, we had no clue what formed the asteroid belt. We thought it was asteroids. That's why it's called the asteroid belt. But this alien told us that it was a planet and there was a collision. And I surmised that the collision would have to be something from the debris that's trailing along with Planet X. It would have to be a moon or some of the debris that hit this planet and shattered it. And if it was a watery planet, then you have frozen ice in those asteroids. She did not use the term Planet X, this alien who crashed in 1947. She didn't speak English. She spoke 340-some languages, but she did not speak English. She only told us that there was a collision and it formed the asteroid belt, and I surmised that since planetary collisions are extremely rare, it would have to have been done by something that passed through, like Planet X. And so I felt when I read that she was talking about Planet X. I didn't make that clear enough when I did the video, and so some people asked me, where exactly did she say that Planet X caused the asteroid belt? It was, I think, in chapter 6, when she talks about the collision that shattered a planet and formed the asteroid belt. Planet X comes in with a whole lot of debris. The insider who saw it said it has a tail 1 trillion miles long, and there are trillions and trillions of particles, some of them the size of a mountain. And we are going to pass through this tail of Planet X at least 5 times, according to Alex Collier, who recently said that. If this thing takes 3,600 years to go out and come back, it could have a tail that lasts 5 years, and he could be right. I don't like to get behind what other people say. I tell you what they said. I don't tell you if I believe it or not. I just say, this is what he said. Here's why it makes sense. But I don't want to go so far as to say I'm sure that it's right. Take one more look at this image because I want you to notice something. If you were to draw a straight line between the Earth and the Sun, and then you were to draw a second line at any point along planet X, and you can draw thousands of them if you want, tell me the angle that is created by the line that goes to the Sun and the line that goes to planet X at any point on its path. The farther planet X is from the Sun, the smaller the angle. And when it's rising up to approach the ecliptic plane, you're going to get the widest angle. What is the widest angle you can see on this graph? Is it 30 degrees or is it more like 45 degrees? It is certainly not 90 degrees, is it? It is never going to be 90 degrees, and it is never going to be blocked by the Sun except the point at which it passes between the Earth and the Sun. Passing through the ecliptic plane, and it's moving very fast at that point. It's moving faster than it ever travels. When it is closest to the Earth, it's going to grab the Atlantic Rift and hold it for a while. Earth will stop rotating because planet X has a grip on that Atlantic Rift. And that's when the trouble begins, because if you think earthquakes and volcanoes and tsunamis are terrifying, wait till you go through a pole shift. The animations I have seen are that it jerks the Earth with a force we have never felt before. And all that water on the planet is pulled to the planet's X side temporarily. And when the pole shift takes place, you have a mountain of water, thousands of feet high, and that's going to slosh all over the coastal areas of the world. And you're going to have 5.6 billion refugees trying to stay alive. Everyone has the same odds. That's government. That represents 93%. So if you fear planet X, consider the threat of our own government. 93% chance of death with our government, and only 90% chance of death with planet X. Of the two, planet X is a milder form of death. More people will survive planet X than our own government's murder of 13 out of 14 of us. They built thousands of FEMA camps, a crematory, and 111,000 trains with foot shackles. What do you think they have planned? The Georgia Guidestones tell you. Now let's get back to Planet X. I want to read this article. Apparently there is a whole lot written, and this is 16.14 Planet X. It says this section was compiled from the information provided by Nancy Leader of Zeta Talk. The Planet X prophecy describes a periodic disruption of our planet from an officially unknown object in our solar system. At the time of writing, the position of this officially unknown object was far beyond Pluto. And the author writes, far beyond Pluto resides a dead binary star similar in mass to our own. Planet X orbits between these two stars in a long, thin path. The reason I have to call them stars is because she calls them objects, and they are both suns. One is a dead sun, similar in mass to our own, and so the word objects is not really good diction. They are both suns. One is alive, the other is dead. Our sun represents 98% of the mass in our solar system, and of all the other planets, asteroids, Kuiper Belt, you add them all up, they only represent 1.5% of the mass of our solar system, with Jupiter consuming just about all of that. I think it's absurd to pretend that we know what's in the Kuiper Belt and the Oort cloud. I think it is likely that massive objects exist way out there that are as big or bigger than Jupiter. Jupiter is just enormous. Look at this picture. Look at Jupiter and then look at the Earth. How many Earths could fit in Jupiter? Jupiter is enormous. And the Sun is much, much bigger than Jupiter. If you place them side by side, only 1.5% of the mass is Jupiter. And the Sun has 98% of the mass. And later in this article, they're going to tell you that Planet X is only 4 times bigger than the Earth. The dead binary star is similar to our own Sun in mass. Planet X travels between the two. Therefore, the size of Planet X is much smaller than that dead binary star. So let me read that sentence again. Far beyond Pluto resides a dead binary star similar in mass to our own Sun. Planet X orbits between these two objects in a long, thin path. This orbit takes approximately 3,600 years to complete. And they're comparing it with the duration of the Mayan calendar. Now, the Mayans were a people in Mesoamerica, the Central America, North America area. They had an advanced civilization, and they understood and used 0. Only 3 civilizations have ever done that. I think they were visited by reptiles. I think the reptiles ate them as food because they sacrificed to the gods. And they practiced cannibalism. What did the aliens give them? The Mayans achieved some amazing feats, like 0 and a calendar. And so we have to respect the Mayans, even if this technology was given to them, because it was far better than anything we had. And it just so happens that the duration of the Mayan calendar is based on a 3,600-year cycle. Why? What's the connection? Now the traveling companions. This peculiar planet also comes with many moons and other debris, which travel behind it like a string of pearls. This can give the appearance similar to that of a comet from one angle or a winged planet when viewed head-on, due to the smaller moons that trail and snake behind it. Now, we've all seen the Soho images, and we have seen the ancient drawings of Planet X, and it is a big glob of debris. Some people ask, why can't we see it? And the explanation in this article is that we can't see Planet X because it's surrounded by debris. And my question is, the debris does not reflect the sun's light? This thing is coming in from an angle. We should see crescents. We should see a whole cloud of crescents. Why can't we see that debris reflecting light? Now she starts the sentence with as well as. I never start a sentence with as well as because it's awkward, but I'll try to read it. As well as moons, boulders, stones, and gases attracted during past visits through our solar system, there is a fine iron ore dust surrounding the beast. If it's an iron ball and it's magnetic, it will attract iron. And that's what happened to Mars. It got ripped off for a big chunk of iron. And if that's the debris that falls on the Earth, look out. If we hit that chunk of Mars, it's going to have catastrophic effects. And I think there are dozens of chunks that large. I think the tail is loaded with objects that are anywhere from fine iron dust to mountains and moons. On Zeta Talk, they also said that there are hydrocarbons. What are those? Basically, it's oil. And when we pass through the cloud, this oil rains down on the Earth. Some of it catches fire because of the friction, and it burns. And it could burn up the oxygen and suffocate people. It could rain down on the earth. If you ever saw an oil spill and you saw the ducks and the wildlife covered with this oil, it's very sad because you can't get it off. If you've ever had oil on your hands and you tried to wash it off with soap, it doesn't come off easily. You need strong soap. A man in Brazil saved a penguin and nursed it back to health, and that penguin comes back and visits him every year for 4 years. Just type in penguin and Brazil, maybe you'll pull up the video.